apologize. I care about the price if it goes down, because then I can buy more. You need to look at Bitcoin in the same lens. It is a fundamental thing that everybody needs. So when you see it on sale, you're better off to pick up more of it than to be afraid of it. For us early adopters, we're seasoned, we're hardened. We've been through a few ups and downs, and I don't think the people coming new are going to have to go through the pain that maybe some of us went through when we went from. Bitcoin's value proposition is that it is decentralized. You can run a node. You can go today to the hardware store or the Best Buy and run a node. You can also buy a miner, and you can own the token. Nobody is stopping you from doing any of those three aspects in the Bitcoin ecosystem. These companies are spending time understanding, and we aren't. If you aren't, you're going to get left behind. There is going to be a cost to not opting out. Aside from auditing, the proof of work is essential. Like, to me, being a man, a worker in society, I see the results of proof of work. The alternate is proof of stake. Proof of stake means if you're rich, you get richer. That's what I did over and over again when I was in the alternate coins. You just keep losing your shirt to centralized power, right? Some founder wakes up on a Tuesday and he decides he wants to take a project in a different direction. You don't have no choice. And, the price of the coin affects that.
I think maybe it's already a really good start to the podcast, because I watched a series called Rookie, and something really interesting happened there. And I thought about Bitcoin, the whole point where it was going through. There was this guy, a policeman, and he got frauded of his money, identity theft. And I was like, that's such a bad thing, and it can happen so easily in the fiat system, because with basically a fake identity and with the right face, you can get anyone's bank information, you can get anyone's thing. But if you have Bitcoin in self-custody, nobody can get to that. No. Nobody can fake that. You cannot call with a fake ID some customer service and bully him into giving the password out or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just thought about that when you said like what Bitcoin, because you don't risk it and you just have it, and like it's your responsibility. Of course, there are stories where people lose their Bitcoin, but in all of those stories, there's a clear mistakes from the user somewhere in there.
And you know what? Another important point is not only can it be self-custodied, it can be audited, right? So you can verify the quantity at any time. Like, I have a computer here. If I know your wallet address or a community wallet address, or you guys have like a community vault or a family Bitcoin stash, anybody can audit it at any time. Like, I'm actually going through right now an estate matter. My grandparents passed away, and my aunt is the executor. And this is another problem with the fiat system, is she had total control of my grandparents' estate, and she's gone and fabricated these two bank accounts, and she's trying to make our family believe that my grandparents didn't have any money. And she has the ability, because of the fiat system, she was the power of attorney. She could go into a bank and open a bank account in my grandfather's name 3 years ago, and then create all these fake transactions to make it look like a real bank account. And I'm having a hard time in the fiat system. I have to pay a lawyer a great amount of money to try and prove that this is all a fraud. And it's very difficult in the fiat system, where if my grandparents, if everything was in Bitcoin, which I tried to urge them later in their lives, but it didn't work out, the whole family could have seen what their wealth was, and it would have been an open book, right? And some families might not like that. They're very private, and that's maybe a symptom of the fiat system, is something to be, hide your wealth and be secretive about it. But that's one of the benefits of Bitcoin, is we would have been able to audit it, and we wouldn't have to go through all this. Like, now, most of my money is going towards lawyers trying to prove something that I shouldn't have to do. So that's a good segue into
that's crazy.
Centralized authority, right? The fiat system is centralized authority.
Absolutely. And that's crazy to hear. But maybe before we go deeper in those things, maybe give the viewers and the listeners some background of like who you are, and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin and how you got here.
Awesome. Well, as many people know, my tag is Cooligan Fields, but I'm better known as Tommy Boy on Twitter. I use Tommy, the movie Tommy Boy, Chris Farley, the actor. I really looked up to him growing up. He was really kooky and funny, and he'd make people laugh. So back in 2000, when I was getting into Bitcoin on Twitter, I thought, everybody was being somebody fake. So I picked somebody that I thought was awesome, which was Tommy Boy, and it's kind of spiraled from there, and it's turned into a really big account. I have quite a following now. It's mainly, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I only post about Bitcoin unless I'm trash talking one of the other coins. But in my real life, I'm actually an industrial mechanic, which is also known as a millwright. So I'm in the skilled trades sector in my country. So I work in a factory. I'm the guy that keeps all the machines running in the factory. So I have this unique mind where I can take things apart in my head and put them back together in a mechanical sense. Right. So I was always mechanically inclined. I could take things apart and put them together. I'm in the middle of renovating my bathroom right now. I built my deck on the back. I do all my own auto work. I don't take it to a shop. I really use my hands a lot. And that brought me to Bitcoin, right? Being a mechanic and understanding, wanting to get to the fundamentals of how things work and run. And then when I turned that to look at like my money and my savings and the fiat system, then my eyes really opened up in 2020 when I came to Bitcoin from Ethereum. My journey started with Ethereum. Someone at my workplace said, "Hey, have you heard about this new thing, Ethereum?" And so I got involved in it a little bit, but I kept getting like a weird feeling in my stomach. Like with Ethereum, you have a founder, Vitalik Buterin. He has done things with Ethereum. He rolled it back in, I think, 2017. That's when I started to get into it. And I was like, what? He can roll back the time chain? And I was like, okay, that's a little odd. And then I was actually building a GPU mining rig. I had a 6-card rig in my basement running, and it was mining Ethereum. Everything was fine and dandy. And then all of a sudden he switched over. Vitalik and the founding team decided they were going to switch to proof of stake instead of proof of work. And overnight, my mining rig, it just shut off. It wasn't making me any profit. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? Like how do I keep getting rug pulled and I have no say in it, right? I didn't have a say in it. Also, too, I went into SHIB. Like during that time, I was in the altcoins. I bought Shiba Inu. And again, the founding team donated like a plethora of Shiba Inu to Vitalik. And he donated it to some third world charity. And overnight, the price plummeted. And I was sitting there holding a pile of them. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. I keep getting rug pulled in the alternate coin space. And then so that brought me to NFTs. I was caught up in the NFT craze of, I think, 2022. I ended up buying these penguins. They were called pesky penguins. And they were valued on their rarity. So if they had a tie on or a cigar, that made it more rare. And I'm just like collecting cards, like hockey cards. And then overnight, I think I went away camping or something, and I came back a week later, and the whole project had changed. They changed all the aspects of the penguins. They had demon ones, they had robotic ones, and all the rarity levels changed. And again, I had no say in it. Nobody asked me. So I think at that point, that's when I found the Bitcoin Standard and Seyfuddin Ammous. And I owe him everything, because once I started reading the Bitcoin Standard, I understood the difference between alternate coins and Bitcoin. One is centralized, one is decentralized, right? And that is a critical point in Bitcoin, is the decentralization. Some people, they just want to buy the token and hold it. But for me, I went down a deep rabbit hole, and I wanted to understand, okay, so what's the mining? What's mining? I ended up buying some S9s and doing mining. I actually took me about a month, but I got a node running, which is like, for someone like me, I'm not super computer technical. I'm more mechanical. Like I said, I take nuts and bolts apart. But The node to get on the computer was great. That once you run a node, you understand true decentralization. Like, I run an accurate record of all the transactions going on now and in the past on my computer. And that lends back to the auditing. So I can audit on my own computer, not only my wallet, but I can also audit the supply. So there's a command. You pop up in the command window and you type in get tx outset info, one word, and you hit enter, and it takes about 8 minutes, but the node, the program actually audits the entire system, and it'll spit back exactly how many Bitcoins exist, which is, I say that to people and it kind of goes over their head, like, whatever, but is the price going to go down? I'm like, no. You need to understand that I can audit the supply. From a $50 computer sitting in my living room, I can literally audit the entire supply. Can you do that with gold? No. Can you do it with diamonds? No. Can you do it with art? No. Can you do it with real estate? No. Can you do it with stocks? No. There's so many no's. This one aspect of Bitcoin, it really gives me goosebumps when I think about it, about auditing the supply. That's an amazing feature. So that brings me up to about 2022. I got a firm grasp of what Bitcoin actually was. And now for the last year or two, I've actually been able to transition from learning to teaching, right? It's been a weird 2024, 2025, where I haven't done as much understanding what Bitcoin is, because I feel like I have a firm grasp on it. And now I get to try and use my mind to help other people understand. Like, for instance, sitting down with our MP last week, I got to try and help him understand it on a fundamental level, right? But we'll talk more about that in a bit on my meeting with Terry Dowdle. So again, I got rug pulled, and then that brought me to Bitcoin and understanding the fiat system. From there, I just started reading and devouring as much information as I could. The Creature from Jekyll Island is a critical book. All people must read that. The Richest Man in Babylon, another great book that everybody needs to read. The Sovereign Individual. Also, the Bitcoin Standard. That's the premier Bible of Bitcoin, is the Bitcoin Standard. You need to start there, read that book, and understand it. So that's where I'm at today, Robin. Maybe we could talk about some other things if you wish.
It is super interesting. I have a bunch of things we can go in there. I think the first thing is the last thing you said is with the books. There are the Creature of Jekyll Island and all those great books that you've mentioned. It's a thing where they're not Bitcoin books except the Bitcoin Standard, but they explain Bitcoin in a way without really mentioning Bitcoin, or they give you a new perspective that you're like, oh yeah, that's a Bitcoin book right there. What have you learned from those books about Bitcoin without really like learning something on Bitcoin?
Well, more it taught me the system that we're currently in, the fiat system, which is the dollar system, right? If you don't understand that you're an ostrich with your head in the sand, then you have no chance, right? Up into my 20s and into my 30s, I'm just into my 40s now, but I was blind to all the corruption, all the printing of money, right? And now you see it more and more, that the printing of money is inflation. It's a cancer on our society. When a politician can just show up and click one button and create billions of dollars, he not only creates chaos in the market, he robs people of their life energy. Like me and you, Robin, we're going to work very hard our entire lives. We're proof of work, right? This podcast is proof of work. Everything I do is proof of work, and I get rewarded accordingly. My boss says, okay, you give me 1 hour of your time, I will give you $50. And that's a fair trade. But how is it fair that some person in a suit or tie can walk up and click a button and create billions of dollars from thin air without creating any value for people and just injecting that into the market? That was the biggest eye-opening thing for me. And then so that made me search for an alternate. And then that's when I ran into Bitcoin, right? It is the alternate. It, like I said, it's auditable, right? It's fixed, right? It's a fixed supply. It's decentralized, right? And it runs on proof of work. Okay, proof of work to me is aside from auditing, the proof of work is essential. Like to me, being a man, a worker in society, I see the results of proof of work. Okay, the alternate is proof of stake. Proof of stake means if you're rich, you get richer. Okay, if you have a big bag of money and you put it somewhere, people will give you more money for that. And that to me is, it's predatory. You're earning off of nothing, right? Just because you maybe have a big bag of money, you should get richer and richer in this world. No, that doesn't seem right to me. I feel like the workers, the ants of this world, should be rewarded. Like if you're willing to work hard, like you in this podcast that I've watched over the last few years, like just grow and grow and grow. Like I'm sure you're exhausted. Like this is proof of work, and you're being rewarded accordingly. That is the fundamental law of the universe. Okay, the universe is proof of work, right? Everything around you is created by the sun. The sun is working right now. It's creating energy, and we're all benefiting from that. But when someone can just walk up and create something from nothing, it's not only a magic trick, it's predatory, and it should be criminal, really. And hopefully we transition into the new system of Bitcoin, where if you don't work, you don't get rewarded.
What do you think the implications of that fiat system are, and maybe on the flip side of that, once on an individual level and or on like a political or society level or on a group level in general? What are the implications then if we like opt out and use the Bitcoin system?
Jeff Booth brings it up in The Price of Tomorrow that a deflationary system is actually beneficial to the world. Like I'm sure there will still be like public systems like welfare that where people that need assistance and can't provide work for society, they get the protection they need. But I do see, like if you look back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, before money printing really took off, it really was the golden era of like, science and art and stuff. Like we've been living off the inventions for decades now, me and you, off the telephone, off the computer, the internet. These things have all been around since the 1900s. And they were created in a more constricted system, like a more, fixed supply system. Inflation was set at 1%. They didn't print trillions of dollars. There wasn't all these government branches that are just bloated with workers that like really provide no value. So the money went into research and development. That's when the Wright brothers made an airplane and we got to fly over the ocean, right? What's the last greatest invention that we've had? The internet. And then along comes Bitcoin. To me, Bitcoin is the next wheel, right? It's going to take us to where we need to be and hopefully curb some of this government overspending.
It's a good point of like, we have so much overspending. The fiat system is such and there's, I think, I mean, with the creature of Jekyll Island and there are people that like set up that system, but I think most people that work even now in the fiat system, they don't really are evil. They just feed a system that isn't good, and the system is kind of the wrongdoing, and not per se the people in it. Especially because there are a lot of people involved in central banking and all those things. And I've met people that work in banking, and they are so deep into that system that they don't really see what's wrong with the system because they're depending on the system. So it's a hard thing. And even people that are not working directly in there, but just are reliant on it in some way or a sense, it's fascinating if you think about how this whole thing evolved. I hope that in 50 years, we look back and see that moment in time of like a temporary uptick in central banking starting from 1971. Maybe I don't know where the prime time of central banking is. Maybe 2025. Maybe that's a year. 2020, I think it was also a big year. We printed a lot of money in that year. But I hope we look back in like 50 years and say like, oh yeah, like thank God for Bitcoin.
Yeah, me and you.
Thank God this Bitcoin thing came along, and we have documentaries and Netflix movies on how fiat rise and fall through Bitcoin. But I think we have a lot of hard work still to do.
Yeah, I think there is going to be like a churning, like a fourth churning, where it is going to be very difficult for some people because, like you said, they're stuck on the fiat system. Their livelihoods come from centralized money printing. I have many friends that are investors and they live off dividends. You know, they will never give up their dividends. And I'm not sure if you know what that is. Here, if you buy a stock, some stocks pay dividends, which is like a small percentage you get in cash, right, in fiat, where you can then turn around and buy more of that stock. It's like a snowball going down a mountain, and this thing is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And hopefully, me and you, and with this podcast and going out and talking to people, we can help educate them and make the transition not so difficult. And I find in the last year or two, it's actually been a lot easier talking to people about Bitcoin. From 2017 to 2024, it was pretty tough. Nobody wanted to hear about it. The price was too volatile. The price may still be volatile in the future. We don't know, right? And that's what most people want to talk to me about, price, but it's difficult. I don't care about the price. I apologize. I care about the price if it goes down, because then I can buy more, right? When I try and explain to people Bitcoin, I try and use analogies. And a great analogy I find is I compare Bitcoin to beef, right? We all need protein. We all need food, and we need meat. Okay, so if you go to the grocery store and a T-bone steak that regularly costs $50 is on sale for $25, what's your natural inclination? You're going to buy 3 or 4 of these steaks, and you're going to put them in the freezer, and you're going to save them, and you're going to be like, yes, I just got a $50 steak for $25. You feed your family, everybody's happy. You need to look at Bitcoin in the same lens. It is a fundamental thing that everybody needs. So when you see it on sale, you're better off to pick up more of it than to be afraid of it, right? If I go to the grocery store and things are on sale, I load up on them. Why would you look at Bitcoin any differently? It is a set of rules that are running that are never going to change, right? You can look at the rules. They're open to everybody, right? It's an open source code. So if you don't understand at this point, it kind of falls on you, because you understand other things. So you shouldn't have a problem understanding when it's explained to you with simple analogies like that, right?
Yeah, I actually used back in the day in the stock world where I was coming from. I used the analogy of a sock. If you really like a sock and you have the sock on every day anyways, and you know you need those socks anyways, if you go to the store and they're 50% off, are you buying more of them or not? Because you will probably use those socks for the rest of your life, and they're not going bad. Like a sock that is not used laying in a drawer will not go bad for like anytime soon. I don't have no clue if socks go bad, but like they have a very long life in front of them. So it's funny because I never made the comparison with Bitcoin, but it's with Bitcoin even better than with any stocks, because stocks do turn bad. Stocks do carry a lot of risks with the management team and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny. I got back to my stocks day because I've literally made that comparison so many times. And you mentioned previously the fourth turning. I think that's something that came up here and there in the podcast. Maybe you can explain us a little bit of what's the theory behind the fourth turning and why do you compare it to that?
Yeah, I'm not really that knowledgeable on the 4 cycles. I do know that there is 4 churnings, and they generally run in, I think, 100-year cycles. So you get 20 years of like easy life. Everything's good. There's abundance of stuff. And then I think in the second churning, people start waking up and realizing. The third churning gets a little bit worse. Things start getting, again, less supply, right? Things are starting to run out. And then in the fourth churning, it's when it's the worst, and everybody realizes that the system is corrupted and it's not working and it needs to change, right? But in that fourth churning, you come back to the first, right? So after we go through the hard, then things should get good again, right? But it's getting through that fourth churning that's the challenge. And I think if we go back, we can look at the last 100 years, and I just spoke to that previously. In 1901, it was the invention mecca of history. We had airplanes, we had telephones, you had the discovery of oil. Oil opened up these massive things for, you could fly, travel, transport things. So, about 100 years ago, it looks like that would have been the first churning, right? And so now we've gone through the 30s, the 40s, the Great Depression, the struggle, and then the 80s and 90s, things were good again. And now we're getting to a point where it's like, the needle's really getting high on money printing. People are getting desperate. You see on TV, homelessness is through the roof. In my town alone, they have like tent cities, so it looks to me, I don't want to be no doomsayer. I'm more of a positive person, but it does look like we are entering into like a bit of struggle.
Yeah, I look with a little bit of criticism to the system because with that comparison, because I feel like life in general gets better if we compare it to previous ones. But I think we are kind of in a fourth turning of our money system, maybe, where the money system gets worse and worse and worse. Because if you look back, what an average person now can do, and they can pick up like airplanes tickets to new cities and all those things, while in the early days of airplanes, only rich people could even fly. We see those, like in Bitcoin, it's quite popular to see like, oh yes, airplanes were so much more luxurious back in the day, because only rich people could even fly. The middle class and the poor people couldn't even afford a ticket. Now, most people, not most people, but like most people in the Western civilization can afford an airplane ticket. I can fly across Europe for like $20. Or like, it's usually cheaper than the train. It's fascinating. I don't know how it is in America, but in Europe, it's usually cheaper to fly to a different city than take the train, which is really interesting to see. But I think we're in a fourth turning when we look at the money system, because the money system definitely worked better previously. And then we are now kind of in a peak fiat system where we cannot really print more. Like we're printing more, but now we have an alternative with Bitcoin. And this is an interesting field of, we now have something that is directly benefiting if they are printing more. So what happens now if, let's say, 2026, something happens like 2020, Bitcoin is now in a way better state, way bigger, and way more people already kind of adopted it. So if the same thing, the same money printing that happened in 2020, from like a size perspective happens again in 2026, I think it goes exponentially better than even in 2020. And a lot of people came to Bitcoin in that year. And this is where it's interesting when we see those developments. And I'm curious what you think on that. But because money printing has to print more money to keep up the system, Bitcoin is now an exit valve, and you just pour more and more money into this fiat system, and it just flows faster and faster to Bitcoin. That's basically all what's happening. And it's just like, there's all those different models for Bitcoin's growth, but I feel like this huge fiat system is about to like really crumble into Bitcoin. Maybe I'm too bullish. Maybe I'm talking with too many Bitcoiners.
Can't be too bullish.
but I don't know how you see that.
Yeah, 100%, Robin. We were both looking through the same lens. Like, I find Bitcoin, it absorbs all the extra liquidity in the system, and it's just going to happen faster and faster because of the price and the appreciation, the history that's being built right now. For us early adopters, we're seasoned, we're hardened, we've been through a few ups and downs, and I don't think the people coming new are going to have to go through the pain that maybe some of us went through when we went from 80,000 down to 20,000 and these big highs and lows. But like I said, I am finding more people are interested in it more than they were in the last 3-4 years. They're open to talking about it. They want to know what it is now instead of just shushing you away. I find people more now. They're like, "Oh, what do you know about it?" And that's a great thing because we are going to go through another money print. There's no way around it. They are going to have to print money, and that money is going to have to find a path to somewhere. And Bitcoin, I think, is going to be the ultimate resource for people. And like I say, the fixed supply, because it has a fixed supply, the value appreciates so much faster than a stock, right? Like even if you look at MicroStrategies right now, Michael Saylor can create shares out of thin air. I like what they're doing. It's great if you're into stock markets. I personally, I follow Michael, but I don't buy into his company. Because right there, he can create stocks out of thin air where you cannot do that with Bitcoin, right? There's a fixed supply. So you are going to see exponential growth. And it's, I think right now today, are we at all-time high right now?
I think very close to it if we're not. So at least
in the morning, day to be recording.
In the morning when I looked, we were at an all-time high, but it goes so quick up and down. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been holding pretty steady now over the summer, right? It's been up and down, a little bit of fluctuation. Nothing like we've seen in the past where you're getting like a 50% drop and news and doom and gloom. You look, every time I turn on Twitter, Trump's doing something to, I feel like, push crypto and Bitcoin. I don't like to use the word crypto, but unfortunately, it seems like they're going to come along with us, like your XRP or Ethereum. A few of them are riding the coattails of Bitcoin because people maybe are ignorant and not understanding what Ethereum XRP is. And that's where I step in. I try and help explain to people the value propositions for XRP, the value propositions for Ethereum, which is like you're buying into a controlled, centralized token that can be printed endlessly. Even Ethereum now, it's proof of stake. So they're creating more Ethereum and we don't even know, right? XRP, their value proposition is, I think they have gold in a vault somewhere and that's there, and they won't prove it. They won't show you. Apparently it's locked up somewhere and that's the value in the XRP. Things like that. I'm like, how could you buy into something like that where Bitcoin's value proposition is that it is decentralized. You can run a node. You can go today to the hardware store or the Best Buy and run a node. You can also buy a miner and you can own the token. Nobody is stopping you from doing any of those three aspects in the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? I urge you to try and run an Ethereum node. Go and run an XRP node, right? Ask for the accurate record of all the transactions in the past, and you won't. Like we explained, Ethereum, Vitalik ran the time chain back. XRP, there's apparently 30,000 of the first pages of the ledger they won't release to anybody. So what happened in those 30,000 pages of their ledger, right? There's so many unknowns in these alternate coins, and that's the tip of the iceberg. Those are the two biggest ones. And you can see the corruption. Can you imagine how bad it gets at the bottom of the list of those altcoins? Some of them founders are in jail right now. And that's who you're going to invest in. Look at Justin Sun. These guys are going to prison and they're your leaders. They're the people that own your token, your investment, your life savings. You're going to hand over to these people? I don't think so. I'd rather give mine to Satoshi. Satoshi can have my money. When his coins move, then we'll know.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. And you cannot even have them. Not even Satoshi could have them, which is really interesting. We just had an episode with Brian, who is a big fan of the Satoshi Nakamoto is John Nash theory. But it's always fun to have those thought experiment who Satoshi might be, and we even made the implications of like, okay, what if this is Satoshi Nakamoto? Like, what would that change? And we kind of came to the conclusion, who cares? Like, it wouldn't change anything. I mean, there might be an improvement of the perspective of Bitcoin, depending on who he is. Like, okay, what did he really intend with Bitcoin, and to what extent did it intended? But the thing grew way bigger than him already. It's kind of fascinating how something can grow so much bigger than the founder even could imagine. I think I don't know if he had the vision for all that what already came in such a quick time. Also,
I think he did. That's why he disappeared. I think he knew what he'd started, and he knew the implications of it. And you could see like a lot of the early adopters, like stuff happened to them, suspicious stuff happened to them. You know, you were probably pulled into FBI interrogation rooms in 2008, 2009 if you were on any of the blog posts and stuff. I'm sure some of these people's lives were ruined. I know, going through the legal system myself, like one thing can wipe you out, right? So I think Satoshi knew what he did, and then he just quietly slipped off into the night. Me personally, I kind of lend my theory to the Satoshi being Hal Finney. I like Hal Finney for being Satoshi. It's unfortunate he's passed now, but if it was him, that does make it even kind of more solidified that he's not coming back. You know, those million coins, they're not going to move, I don't think, ever, which is awesome to watch somebody that owns 1 million coins. They're going to become the richest person on earth, and they don't even have the keys to their wealth. It's amazing. I love telling people about that. They're like, oh, you know, what about Satoshi? I'm like, this guy has 1 million coins and hasn't moved them once. So I think I trust him. He has patience. I trust Satoshi.
Yeah, and the best theory on that is just like he's dead. Like most interesting theories that I hear from people who Satoshi Nakamoto is actually those theories that where the person is dead. Like those are like the most realistic for me to see. But even if we now, for a short, quick of time, entertain the idea of him being alive, like he has some balls.
Yeah, yeah,
or she, I don't know. But definitely like this thing. Assuming he still has this key, maybe also he just like threw away the keys to 1 million Bitcoin and as a gift to humanity, and making Bitcoin like having a solidified foundation and saying like those are the first million Bitcoin and they are gonna burn right now, right here. Is a good possibility that he thought about that. But if he still has the key and if he's still alive, I would love to have his discipline.
yeah, for sure. Like because I think he would know that it would shake the foundation of the theoretical Bitcoin, right? You have the mechanical fundamentals, the nodes, the miners. Those things can't be stopped, but the narrative can shift and change, and a story could pop up that could shake the price, right? Like I do think if the million coins moved, you would see a fluctuation in price. I'm not sure in which direction, up or down, but I've found in the past you see like stories can affect the price, right? Like if Trump came out tomorrow and said Bitcoin's banned, it's going to affect the price, right? So one man's words can affect Bitcoin's price still to this day. It's because it's so volatile, and it's still in its infancy. Like, let's be real. It's only been around 15 years. Like, that's nothing. That's why I get frustrated sometimes when people are like, oh, yeah, it's going to zero or da-da-da. I'm like, you don't know that because it hasn't been around long enough, right? We're still figuring things out today, me and you, Robin. You could learn something new about Bitcoin today, right? I know I can. So there's still lots of legs. There's room to grow for Bitcoin. We don't even understand. You have like multi-sig. You know, people don't even understand multi-signature vaults, right? And where that's going to take us, impediments and the things that it's not even done changing the financial system. It's just getting its foot in the door. So for me, it's an exciting time. I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, 15 years. I stack weekly as much as I can because like I said, I did the work. I read the books. I understand. You need to understand the fundamentals, right? Not just price. You go and understand what is the time chain? Where does it exist? And how does it get verified? And how many coins are there? I find very few people, they don't even know that there's a 21 million coin hard cap and that 19 million of those coins are already out in existence. So for the next 1,000 years, humans are going to fight over 1 million Bitcoins coming out. And you have these companies making these multi-billion-dollar investments in mining facilities in Texas and all over the world where energy is abundant, right? So if they're investing in it and they see the future, what are we missing on the lowest totem pole level, just being a purchaser of the coin, right? These companies are spending time understanding, and we aren't. If you aren't, you're going to get left behind. There is going to be a cost to not opting out. You know, you are going to be left behind.
It's interesting of when you think about the cost of a decision that you take, and a lot of people that right now don't have Bitcoin have not made the conscious decision to not have Bitcoin. They just made the unconscious decision to not look at it deeply enough.
Yeah.
There are only, I think, like a handful people that really said, oh, I look at it and I don't like it because maybe I'm a communist and I think there has to be a central power that looks over the money supply, like anything like that. Like, oh, okay, yeah, look, at least you made a conscious decision. I feel like it's a stupid decision, but it's your money and you did it. But I think the vast majority of people out there are Bitcoiners that don't know it yet. And they heard something weird on Bitcoin. And that's why they don't look deeper. And that's where I get sad. Like, if they just had more information, they would take a different decision.
Yeah.
And not looking deeper into Bitcoin is a conscious decision, which leads them to be maybe more miserable in the coming years. And this is kind of what you kind of alluded to, the hidden cost of not looking deeper into Bitcoin, the hidden cost of not opting out, the hidden cost of not getting Bitcoin. And I think that would be a great book title. I think you can write something nice on that with like the hidden cost of not adopting Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think this could wake people up, could be a great orange pill.
Yeah. It like I said, Bitcoin, the backbone of it is proof of work, right? So not only are the miners working, but your Bitcoin is working for you too, right? It is like almost like hiring an employee that you know for certain is going to be more valuable in the future. We know this. There are going to be temporary ups and downs in price, but from when I got in to now, my price point, it's pretty decent, right? So my Bitcoin is working for me. So in the future, I don't have to work as hard, because as we get older, we want to try and relax a bit more. But if these people, if they don't opt into Bitcoin, they're going to be working their fingers right till the bitter end, till they're in their 60s, 70s, because they have nothing else working for them, right? And sure, you could have stocks and bonds working for you too, or whatever, but as soon as you do any research, you understand that those are centralized, manipulated, controlled things. And you can partake in them if you want. But like I said, again, that is them making a conscious decision, right? To choose ignorance, right? And I've learned over the last 3-4 years, ignorance is bliss. Like, I almost wish I could go back to being ignorant. Because when you open your eyes, you're like, oh my God, there is so much corruption. There's so much going on that, and thankfully we have Bitcoin, because it is, to me, our only exit strategy. There's nothing else. We need Bitcoin. You need Bitcoin. Your grandma needs Bitcoin. Your aunt needs Bitcoin. Everybody needs it, right? And it is running out at a rapid rate.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. I just thought about this idea of writing stories on an average family in two situations. You probably know the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and like showing people how an average family can benefit or being at a major disadvantage whether they adopt Bitcoin or not.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of need to paint those pictures, because a lot of people need to be aware of the potential for them, what Bitcoin could do, in order for them to care enough, in order for them to say, oh, I look deeper into that. That's why I think price is so freaking important. Not for Bitcoiners, but for people that look into it, because it's the gateway drug. It's the thing that gets people through the door. It's like, oh, wait, I said Bitcoin is a scam at 50,000. It's now at 120,000. Okay. Now it's going down 100 to 110,000, 100,000. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now it's going up to 150,000. Wait, it's 200,000. So I think it wakes people up to the possibility that they might be wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's great. And I think that's something, it's still, I think, the best marketing tool for Bitcoin overall. But then people need to be aware of, okay, what's actually the cost of it not being adopted? Because Bitcoin, the price going up is kind of a benefit to adopting it. But then also people don't get, there's a cost associated with not adopting it, which means, okay, what happens if I'm staying on this fiat system? And I think there are Could be a great thriller. I'm not good in writing books, but someone feel free to pick that idea up.
Well, like I posted last week, I sat down with our local MP for Simcoe County. His name's Terry Dowdle. He's a conservative. And we sat down and talked. I booked a meeting with him, and that's all he kind of wanted to talk about with me was price. Where do I think price is going? He says, "Oh, I bought some XRP and Ethereum and and I lost my shirt on it. I don't know when to buy it and sell it." And this is a high level politician, right? And I tried to explain to him that Bitcoin isn't for buying and selling. Like I said, if you want to do that, go to the casino, right? That's really gambling. When you're buying and selling something with no knowledge of why it's going up and down in price, you're literally just gambling, right? If you have inside information and you know it's going to go up or down and you're making a calculated bet, then fine. But for anybody that's not like a billionaire or in the know or high level in the financial system, we have no clue on a day-to-day basis what price is going to do. So for me, I'm a dollar cost averager. I told Terry, like, I don't sell it, Terry. I just buy it as like a pension plan. As in my future, when I retire, it will have increased in value enough that it can subsidize my lifestyle, right? It's not a gambling tool to try and bet whether price is going to go up or down. And then, so he wanted to know about mining. So we talked about mining a little bit, and he didn't even realize that the mining was a thing, and that there's a computer sized machine that does proof of work. It's doing advanced math to try and calculate an answer for the time chain. And if it does get the right answer, it's rewarded with Bitcoin. And that's how new Bitcoins are created in that mechanism there of the ecosystem. And it was really eye opening to him. He had no clue that you could go to Meme Pool and actually watch the ledger being created one page at a time. Like, these are things that, like, your average person, they don't know about the fundamentals. And that's where I come in. And I said to Terry, Terry, listen, if your aunt or your son comes to you and they want to buy dog poo-poo coin, I said, I'm here for you. You call me, you text me, and I will explain to you, your loved one, why that's a bad financial decision. And he was totally open to it. He's the one that wanted to get the picture with me. He said, the Bitcoin guy. I said, sure, yeah, let's take a picture. That's awesome. And he said that in Ottawa right now, which is our capital, that's where all the politicians, the parliament is, that they've actually created a caucus to start to understand Bitcoin, right? And he said there are a few people in that sphere that do kind of understand a little bit. So I felt good about that, right? That there's some people, and I've looked into the people he's talking about, and they seem like good people. So I can see our government in Canada starting to get interested. They're creating groups to learn about it, right? And then me and Terry, we talked about the auto sector and the economy and how it's not doing as well as he's seen in the past. He says there's like a lull. He can see construction workers getting laid off. The auto industry with the tariffs and stuff is in dismal standing right now. Even myself, I'm in the auto industry. I'm a millwright for an automaker, and I've been laid off all summer. I've been without a job all summer. What has Tommy been doing? I've been golfing. I did a lot of golfing this summer, a lot of camping. But right, our economy is struggling right now, so that's even more reason that we need to opt into Bitcoin. And when I left Terry's office, I feel like he understood Bitcoin a little bit better. It was on his radar, and I hope to set up another meeting with him soon and talk to him. I left him a few books that he should read. It was a really great conversation. It's good to see someone like me getting out of my comfort zone and going and talking to these politicians, because if we don't, like I told him, Terry, there's like maybe 1 in 1,000 people that understand Bitcoin on my level, and they're not going to be in this city. You couldn't go 20 miles and have somebody that understands a node, a miner. So you're very fortunate to have Tommy Boy in your zone, and if you need me, call me.
What do you think is the value of getting to politicians and actually orange pilling them, as they are kind of influencing how we live together?
It's crazy how many people they've told me, if this person buys Bitcoin, I'll buy Bitcoin. if Warren Buffett buys Bitcoin, I'll buy Bitcoin. If Steve Jobs buys Bitcoin, I'll buy Bitcoin. I have literally grown adults telling me that if another adult buys Bitcoin, it'll give it legitimacy and then they will trust, right? So getting to these politicians is, I don't understand who trusts Terry. And if Terry says Bitcoin is good, then a wave of people may come to the ecosystem, right? I think a lot of people, they don't want to be the first one through the door. So they need some leader, some person that they trust to do it first, and then they'll do it. So the benefit of me going to Terry is that he may go to the Ottawa and say to the right person something that I've told him that opens up a whole new world for Bitcoin, right? These politicians, although I don't buy into much politician and stuff, I try and keep my mind on other things more important, but people really value what they say.
It is fascinating, and I've came to know that there is so many group thinking involved in finances, which is fascinating for me. Like, why finance is such an important topic for you and for everyone. Why would you put your opinion just on what someone else did?
Yeah.
Like, this could be a great indicator.
It's crazy.
Gary Cadone talked about that, and he said, like, oh yeah, like I saw so many smart people going into Bitcoin. That's why I look deeper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing. Like, if you see a lot of smart people going into Bitcoin, like, look deeper. There might be something.
Yeah.
But just because you see a bunch of smart people buying Bitcoin, that's not a reason to buy Bitcoin. It's a reason to look deeper and study it yourself, and verify it for yourself. With that, you're lucky because it does make sense. But even if it does make sense, maybe you make a mistake. Maybe you aren't prepared to hold Bitcoin yourself. Maybe you lose your Bitcoin. And this is where you have to get educated, because even if you're right in assuming that the other person is right, maybe you're not educated enough to do the thing that the other person does, and like how to hold Bitcoin, where to buy them, and all those things. So you don't have a choice outside of actually educating yourself. So I don't know. I'm obsessed with why people are just following other people. Like, it's great. Even to it happened to me already a lot. Not a lot, but like I wasn't at a conference and there was someone coming up to me and like, hey Robin, like I have that many assets and that income. Like, when can I retire on Bitcoin? and I looked at him like I don't know.
Yeah.
like I don't,
do your own research.
Like 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. Like, I have no clue. And he's like, oh, but these are my expenses. And this, like, oh man, don't give me that much information.
Yeah, people want other people to tell them what to do. It's amazing.
Yeah, and like, I appreciate that, but in the end of the day, it's your life. Like, you have to look out for your own eggs. Like, if you put them in the basket that you trust most, but you have to verify and I don't know. It's trust is a weird thing with money. It's something that if that gets lost in money, it's also like really quickly gone. You know, like it's quickly gone and very hard to rebuild.
Yeah, we're like a herd of zebra out there. We're just following the crowd, right? And to be honest, that's how I got here. I had one person at work tell me about Ethereum, and here I am 5 years, 7, 8 years later on a podcast, a Bitcoin only maximalist, right? Like, it's okay, I think, for people to show us the door, but it's as our duty as people to walk through the door and then do your own learning, do your own research, and then you can't blame anybody, right? If you've done the work, there's nobody to blame. And like I said, Bitcoin is proof of work. So if you do not do the work, like you said, you are going to get run over. You need to do, like, could you imagine how much research you've done up to this point, Robin? Like 100 hours, 200 hours, 3, 4. It's crazy to think of how much time we've invested understanding, and other people, they just want to go, oh, what do you think? And then they'll just jump off, right? Like, I've had people buy alternate coins on someone else's bad advice, but won't listen to me on Bitcoin and being Bitcoin only, right? It's like crazy. How do you trust your Uncle Jeb because he got a tip from Leroy that has no foundation and understanding? They're just on tips and hot information, and you won't listen to me, and I'll preach to you for an hour and teach you exactly what Bitcoin is.
It's funny. I was it was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I wasn't even on YouTube back then, but I talked to my friends all the time about Bitcoin, and there was a friend that really asked a lot of questions. Oh, like, what is that about Bitcoin? What is that about Bitcoin? And we were just 4 people, but it was just me and him talking, so the other person just like listened. And the interesting thing that happened, the other person that listened, he was like, "Oh shit, that's so good. That's so good." And while I was talking with him, he literally grabbed his phone and like played with it. And I was like, okay, he's probably not interested anymore. Uh, and then later he showed me, hey, I just bought Bitcoin. And I'm like,
wow, that's awesome.
It's awesome, but he didn't do any research. Like
No.
I told him then like, okay, that's great. You got your foot in the door, but now dig deep.
Yep.
Like you will lose your Bitcoin, you will panic sell, you will do whatever thing. And actually, I have to check back. Well, I haven't checked back with him like since years. I feel like, but he has to do now his research because otherwise he will panic sell, he will lose them, he will like do whatever, and he has to grow the conviction of Bitcoin. But he was literally like, oh gosh, that sounds so great. Like I'm buying it right now because I get FOMO. I'm like, whenever you have a hurry or stress in Bitcoin or in general with money, like slow down. Like you're probably being scammed right now.
You're probably making the wrong decision. I had a person in 2021 come to me when Bitcoin had went from 80,000 down to 60,000. He was panicking, and he had heard from someone that it was going to go to 40,000. And he had me help him sell an entire Bitcoin at $60,000. And I still know this person, and they never got that Bitcoin back, and likely they never will, because the price has gone so high that amount, that quantity of Bitcoin is now out of his reach forever, probably. But you had it at one point. You literally were holding the fastest racehorse in all the tracks in all the worlds. And because someone came to you and said, oh, it's going to go down more, you sold the best vehicle for your money that history has ever known. And it haunts me to this day that I partook in selling it for him, but he had no other way. He didn't know how to do it himself. And I try to use that as an example of like, do not FOMO, because you will regret it. And it'll take off to a point where you will never get it back.
I 100% agree. We talked before, I forgot that almost. We talked before about stablecoins, Ripple and Tether. And I had this weird thing, this idea of like, we already have now CBDCs. Like for me, Ripple, Tether, like all the stable coins are kind of a form of a CBDC already, because they are built on fiat. This is not Bitcoin. This is fiat land. Whole of crypto is either Bitcoin or fiat. And there's like one Bitcoin, and there's like 30,000 fiat tokens. And so this is for me this thing of like, this might just be the CBDC that America has. Like we passed this thing of like, hey, we don't want to have a CBDC, but they do allow XRP and all the other things. They not only allow, they embrace it. The stable coins is such a big thing, and there are some good things about stable coins, because it brings fiat at least like to outside of banking hours and all those things. Like that's in general a good idea, but I dislike fiat. So bringing a thing that I dislike to more people, I don't know if that's a good thing. Probably not. Do you see there's just this play of governments of using this crypto thing, those stable coins as their CBDC? They don't have to build it, but they can still control it. They can still use it.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. At this point, like if you look, if you lift up one layer on Tether, you'll see that it's like mass corruption. And again, they're printing Tether on a monthly basis, just creating it out of thin air. Right. And I think the US government is buying Tether now at this point. So again, it's the same circus, just different monkeys, right? Where like Bitcoin, I try and tell people, like, do you know there's not even a marketing department for Bitcoin? You know how much they spend annually, Bitcoin's marketing department? Zero. So is it number one? I hate the word crypto. Is it the number one crypto asset in the world? Yeah. And it spends $0 on anything, right? It is not a company. It is not, there's no founder. There's a creator, but there's nobody behind the wheel of the ship, where Tether is the exact opposite. You have a group of people that are in cohorts with governments, with banks, with, federal agencies, and you have no say over Tether. And they do. They could stop your transaction in a heartbeat if you wanted to, right? So I do believe that these CBDCs will be like the stable coins of the future, right? You see the more and more adoption in that area.
It's super interesting. How do you in general look actually at Trump and his current administration and the friendliness to Bitcoin?
It's good for the price of Bitcoin. It negatively affect my job. Like I say, I was in the auto industry, so we built cars. Our major market was America. And when Trump said that they were going to tariff cars coming over the border, my company, it halted all production and laid off everybody. So it's hard for me. It's like a double-edged sword. But this is kind of like the fourth churning. This is something that I know that we need to go through. So fortunately for me, I can go find another job, and I have been. I've been doing interviews this week and stuff, and there's plenty of jobs for millwrights out there. So Trump, though, I think he's great for Bitcoin because he doesn't understand it. And so that's really good, because his ignorance, he will just push Bitcoin, right? And he doesn't even realize that he's creating, he's pushing the thing that is going to collapse the system that he's predicated on, right? His whole life has been fiat, right? He makes money off of the fiat printing of money.
That's
so I do like Trump, though. I do like.
It's an interesting perspective of his life being kind of on fiat and now pushing Bitcoin because he doesn't fully understand it. He kind of undermines that without even knowing. Interesting.
Yeah. It's a Trojan horse, and he doesn't even realize it, right? He's brought that little pony right into the stable, and he's feeding it carrots.
And it's a small pony. Like, if we're super honest, like, that pony is super small compared to the trillions, the hundreds of trillions of dollars of all the other markets and assets. And that's why people underestimate it. And that's the success story of Bitcoin, right? They're like, hey, that's an interesting thing. Oh, I can probably make money out of it. Oh shit, you're feeding the pony. The pony gets bigger. The pony is now a horse, and the horse is getting gigantically big, and it's now so big that nobody can kill it because it duplicates itself and it grows, and there are like thousands and thousands of those ponies now, all in the castle, distributed, and you cannot even find them. So it's a really interesting perspective of, like, the pony is now in the White House and it won't go.
That's it, right? And it's only good for us, right? And we're talking at $120,000 per coin, and we're just starting to get spoken about in the U.S. government, right? So there's so much room to grow, and people don't understand that like, there's no top for Bitcoin. There's no price. People are like, where's it going to go? I have no idea. Eventually it will be 1 million. Eventually it'll be 10 million. It's time that I'm not sure of when it will get there. But when you have a fixed supply asset with a financial system that prints money endlessly, there's no choice but for the price to depreciate up with the money printing, like we spoke about earlier.
It's interesting because I did not intend to do that, but by luck and by interesting coincidences, I ended up being a Bitcoin podcaster. And I will document the most interesting next 10 years of financial history on this channel. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I think I was one of your first, one of the first people on your podcast. I've got the pleasure of watching you like explode, right? You've been places that nobody else gets to go to. You've interviewed people that not many people get to. And that's such a blessing, right? And that is a direct result of your adoption of Bitcoin, right? Like that, you owe it all to Bitcoin.
I do. I just look at it. When was our first interview? Yeah, it was on the 6th of January 2024. It came out. So we probably recorded it in 2023, which
Yep.
is crazy. That's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You were, if I counted now correctly, my 11th guest out of like 500, and I don't know, where are we today? 571
Wow.
guests. So that's crazy for me to think. It's
Done well, my friend.
It's amazing. No, I don't know.
Go like this. Give yourself a little pat on the back, my friend. You know, it's proof of work. And that's what I like to see in this world is like people do the work and get the rewards.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. It's been an honor. And with all the returning guests, we have a question that I ask each and every one of my returning guests. I don't know if I asked it last time, but I definitely will ask it now.
Okay.
What have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Well, I've actually golfed. I've learned to golf this summer. I've played over like 70 rounds. I pretty much golf every day up until like I was a golfer my whole life, but I only played maybe a couple times a year. But this year, I've actually kind of dove headfirst into it, and my wife's actually adopted it. And it brought me to a book called Zen Golf, which is I've been reading over the last couple of weeks, and I again, this must be a direct result of the benefits of Bitcoin, because Zen Golf has changed my mindset over the last few weeks. It's allowed me to forgive myself, to make mistakes and be okay with it, and to know that I'm not perfect. But I still am a whole being. I'm still worth love. I'm still worth loving. And if I do the work, I will get the results, right? If you do not do the work, you do not get the results. Unless you cheat. And then, you know what? You have to take that up with God when you get there, if you want to be a cheater. So I would say I've learned patience, kindness, love. Like I said, I spent this summer camping with my kids. I have 4 children. I've just tried to be in the moment, be present, be in the now. That's what I probably learned, is to try and be in the now, because the past is history. The future is a mystery. That's why we have the present. It's a gift, and we need to enjoy it.
That's beautiful, man. And as you know, we have end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question: if Bitcoin didn't exist, what would you be doing right now?
Oh God, that's scary. That's a scary question, Robin. If Bitcoin didn't exist, I would be, like I said, probably be a dividend investor. If you can't beat them, join them. So I would probably invest my money in bank stocks and just be a predator like the rest of the world. But fortunately, thank God for Bitcoin, it's allowed people like me and you who don't want to partake in a crazy circus system. It gives us somewhere to find safety. And that's what I find in Bitcoin. I find safety. Even if the price is volatile, I'm still safe, right? So nobody can steal my money. Nobody can create more of it. And if I want, I can walk over to my computer and audit it in a minute and see how many exist. That's what I appreciate.
I'm glad you're not a predator.
Thank you.
And I'm really glad that I've asked you to be on my podcast, and that you've given me your time already 3 times. I think only, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 people that I had 3 times on the show.
Nice.
Like, it's not a lot of people. And I appreciate it a lot. You gave me 3 times, 1.5 hours of your time. So thank you so much for that. And before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions?
Yeah, you can find me right here on Twitter at Cooligan Fields or TommyBoy21M. I'm mainly on Twitter.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank
I appreciate you coming on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.